April 21st, 2016. Chanhassen, Minnesota, Paisley Park Studios, 9:43 a.m. The staff member walked through the massive complex looking for Prince. He wasn't in the studio, wasn't in his private quarters. Nobody had seen him all morning. Then someone checked the elevator. Prince Rogers Nelson was lying on the floor of the elevator, unresponsive, his skin pale, his body cold. "Call 911, someone screamed. The 911 call came in at 9:43 a.m. "We have an unresponsive male at Paisley Park." Paramedics arrived within minutes, tried to revive him, administered CPR, naloxone, the drug used to reverse opioid overdoses. Nothing worked. At 10:07 a.m. on April 21st, 2016, Prince Rogers Nelson was pronounced dead in his beloved Paisley Park, the place he'd built as his creative sanctuary. He was 57 years old. The cause? Accidental fentanyl overdose, a pain medication so powerful, so deadly, that even a tiny miscalculation can kill. Prince, the musical genius who'd redefined pop, rock, funk, and R&B, the artist who played 27 instruments, the icon who'd sold over 150 million records, the man who'd written some of the most iconic songs in music history, was dead, killed by fake pills he thought were helping him. Pills laced with fentanyl he didn't know he was taking. The world was devastated, shocked. How could Prince be gone? He'd seemed invincible, ageless, eternal. But behind the flamboyant performances, the legendary guitar solos, the defiant independence, was a man in chronic pain. A man who couldn't ask for help. A man who self-medicated in secret. And that secret killed him. Now let me tell you the story of Prince, the shy kid from Minneapolis who became the most innovative musician of his generation, the perfectionist who controlled every aspect of his art, the icon who fought the music industry and won, and the man whose body broke down while he refused to show weakness. The prodigy from Minneapolis long before the symbol, long before the fame, long before Paisley Park. There was a small kid in Minneapolis who could play anything. Prince Rogers Nelson was born on June 7, 1958, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His parents, John L. Nelson and Maddie Shaw, were both musicians. His father, John, led a jazz band called the Prince Rogers Trio. That's where Prince got his name, after his father's stage name. "My father gave me his name," Prince later said. "I had to live up to it." Music was everything in the Nelson household. John played piano, Maddie sang. The house was always filled with sound. But the household was also troubled. John and Maddie fought constantly. Money was tight, tensions were high. When Prince was 7, his parents divorced. It devastated him. "I lost my family," Prince said. "Everything fell apart." Prince bounced between his mother's house and his father's, never feeling settled, never feeling safe. But he had music. At 7, Prince taught himself to play piano. By 10, he was playing guitar, drums, bass, anything he could get his hands on. "Music was my escape," Prince said. "When I played, nothing else mattered." Prince was also small, tiny even. He'd eventually reach 5 feet 2 inches as an adult, shorter than most men, shorter than many women. Kids teased him, called him names, picked on him. But Prince developed an armor, confidence, swagger. "I'm small, but I'm mighty," he'd say. By his teenage years, Prince was a musical prodigy. He formed a band called Grand Central, later renamed Champagne, with his cousin and friends. They played funk, soul, rock. Prince sang, played multiple instruments, wrote songs. Prince was already a genius at 15, said a bandmate. He could play anything, write anything. He was on another level. But Prince's home life was chaotic. After years of bouncing between parents, Prince moved in with the family of his friend Andre Simone. The Andersons took Prince in, gave him stability, let him be part of their family. "They saved me," Prince said. "I finally had a home." At 17, Prince was already thinking beyond Minneapolis. He wanted to make records, wanted to be a star. He recorded a demo tape in a local studio, played every instrument himself, sang all the vocals, produced it himself. The demo tape was extraordinary. Record executives in New York and Los Angeles heard it. They couldn't believe one teenager had done everything. In 1977, at 19 years old, Prince signed a record deal with Warner Brothers Records. The contract was unprecedented. Prince demanded, and got, complete creative control. He'd produce his own albums, play his own instruments, make his own decisions. "I'm not a puppet," Prince told executives. "I know what I'm doing." Warner Brothers took a chance, and it would pay off beyond anyone's imagination. In 1978, Prince released his debut album. He was 19. He'd written, arranged, composed, and played every single instrument on the album. The album was good, not a smash, but promising. Over the next few years, Prince released album after album, each one better than the last, each one pushing boundaries. And then, in 1982, Prince released the album that would change everything, the album that would make him a superstar and start him on a path of perfectionism that would eventually break his body, because Prince was about to become the hardest working artist in music, and it would cost him everything. Purple Rain, the rise of an icon. Between 1978 and 1983, Prince released 5 albums. Each one showcased his incredible versatility: funk, rock, new wave, R&B, pop, jazz, all blended seamlessly. But it was his 1982 album that made Prince a household name. The album was provocative, sexual, controversial. Critics loved it. Conservatives were scandalized. But the album went double platinum. Prince was becoming famous, but he wanted more. He wanted to be Michael Jackson level famous. In 1984, Prince achieved that goal. He released an album tied to a semi-autobiographical film. Both were called Purple Rain. The album was a masterpiece, genre-defying, deeply personal, commercially brilliant. The film told the story of a troubled young musician in Minneapolis trying to make it big while dealing with an abusive father and complicated relationships. It was loosely based on Prince's life. The pain, the ambition, the music as salvation. Purple Rain. The movie opened in July 1984. It was a surprise hit, made $80 million at the box office. The album was even bigger. It spent 24 consecutive weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200, sold over 25 million copies worldwide. The title track became one of the most iconic rock ballads of all time. 6 minutes of guitar-driven emotion. Prince performed it with his band, The Revolution, at award shows. The performances were legendary. Prince's guitar solos were transcendent. At the 1985 Grammy Awards, Prince won multiple awards. He was at the absolute peak of his powers. But Prince wasn't satisfied. He kept working, kept creating. In 1985, he released another album. In 1986, another. In 1987, another double album that many critics consider his best work. Prince was prolific, obsessive, perfectionist. He'd record in his home studio for days straight. No sleep, just creating, playing, perfecting. Prince worked like a machine, said a collaborator. He didn't stop, didn't rest. Music was everything, but the constant work was taking a toll. Prince performed in heels, danced for hours, jumped off speakers, did splits on stage. He was small but explosive. Every performance was physically demanding, and his body started breaking down. In the late 1980s, Prince started experiencing hip pain, the constant dancing in heels, the acrobatic performances. It was damaging his joints. But Prince didn't stop, didn't slow down. He just pushed through the pain. In the 1990s, Prince's career took a different turn. He got into a legendary battle with Warner Brothers Records. Prince wanted to release music on his own schedule. Warner wanted to control the release dates, maximize profits. Prince rebelled, changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol, appeared in public with "slave" written on his face. "I'm not a slave to a record company," Prince said. "My music is mine." The battle lasted years. Prince eventually won his independence, got control of his master recordings, started his own label. He'd proven that an artist could fight the industry and win. But the victory came with costs. Years of legal battles, stress, and mounting physical pain. By the 2000s, Prince was performing constantly, touring, residencies in Las Vegas, private concerts. He was still brilliant, still delivering legendary performances, but privately, he was in agony. His hips were deteriorating. The pain was constant. In 2008, Prince had hip surgery, but he refused a full hip replacement. He was a Jehovah's Witness. He'd converted in 2001, and his religious beliefs made him wary of certain medical procedures. The surgery helped temporarily, but the damage was done. The pain returned, worse than ever. And Prince started taking pain medication, Vicodin, painkillers, whatever would let him keep performing. "I can't show weakness," Prince told friends. "People expect me to be Prince. I can't let them down." So Prince performed through the pain, took pills before shows, smiled for the cameras. Nobody knew how much he was suffering, how much medication he was taking, how close to the edge he was getting. In early 2016, Prince seemed fine. He was working on new music, planning tours, performing, but behind closed doors, Prince was in crisis. The pain medication wasn't working anymore. He was taking more, and the pills he was taking, the ones he thought were safe, prescribed medication, were actually counterfeit, laced with fentanyl, a drug so powerful it would kill him in minutes, and Prince had no idea. The warning signs: a body in crisis. In the final weeks of his life, Prince was falling apart, but almost nobody knew. On April 7th, 2016, Prince performed 2 shows at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. They were last-minute shows, intimate, just Prince and his piano. He seemed tired, thinner than usual, but still brilliant. After the shows, Prince boarded his private jet to fly back to Minneapolis. Mid-flight, the plane made an emergency landing in Moline, Illinois. Prince was unconscious, unresponsive. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, administered Narcan, the overdose reversal drug. Prince woke up. He'd overdosed on pain medication. Doctors told him, "You need to stay. You need treatment. This is serious." Prince refused. "I'm fine. I need to go home." Against medical advice, Prince checked himself out of the hospital, got back on his plane, flew to Minneapolis. The incident was kept quiet. His team told the press it was just the flu, dehydration, nothing serious. But it was a warning, a near-death experience, and Prince ignored it. When he got back to Minneapolis, Prince's team was worried. They knew about the overdose. They knew he needed help. They contacted Dr. Howard Kornfeld, a California-based addiction specialist, begged him to help. Dr. Kornfeld agreed. He couldn't travel immediately, so he sent his son, Andrew Kornfeld, to Minnesota to assess Prince and prepare for treatment. Andrew Kornfeld was scheduled to meet with Prince on April 22, 2016, but he'd arrive one day too late. On April 20th, 2016, the day before he died, Prince was seen at Walgreens near his Paisley Park complex. He looked frail, tired. He went home that evening, went to Paisley Park, his sanctuary, his creative home. Nobody knows exactly what happened that night, but investigators later pieced together the timeline. Prince was alone, in pain, desperate for relief. He took what he thought was Vicodin, a prescription painkiller he'd been taking for years. But the pills weren't real Vicodin. They were counterfeit, made in an illegal lab, pressed to look like real pills. And they were laced with fentanyl, a synthetic opioid, 50 times stronger than heroin. So strong that a dose the size of a few grains of salt can kill. Prince took the pills, probably around midnight or in the early morning hours. Within minutes, the fentanyl overwhelmed his system. His breathing slowed, his heart slowed, his brain was deprived of oxygen. Prince collapsed, probably tried to get to the elevator, maybe was calling for help, but nobody was there. Paisley Park was empty. Prince was alone. He lost consciousness, fell in the elevator, never woke up. On the morning of April 21, 2016, staff arrived at Paisley Park around 9:30 a.m. They started looking for Prince. Nobody had heard from him. At 9:43 a.m., someone found him in the elevator, unresponsive, cold. The 911 call was frantic. "We have someone unconscious. We need an ambulance. It's Prince." Paramedics arrived, tried everything, CPR, multiple doses of Narcan, shocks to the heart. Nothing worked. At 10:07 a.m., Prince was pronounced dead. The news broke within hours. Prince, dead at 57. The world stopped. Social media exploded. Fans wept in the streets. Celebrities posted tributes. Buildings around the world lit up in purple. Crowds gathered at Paisley Park, left flowers, candles, notes. "Thank you for the music. Rest in peace, Purple One." Gone too soon, and the investigation began. How did Prince die? Who was responsible? And what were those pills? The investigation, counterfeit pills, and questions. The autopsy and toxicology report revealed the truth. Prince died from an accidental overdose of fentanyl. The level in his system was exceptionally high. Lethal. Investigators searched Paisley Park, found pill bottles, medications, many mislabeled. They found pills marked as Vicodin or hydrocodone, common painkillers. But when tested, the pills contained fentanyl, counterfeit pills, made in illegal labs, designed to look like legitimate prescription medication. Prince had no idea what he was taking, said an investigator. He thought they were regular painkillers. They were poison. The question became, where did Prince get the counterfeit pills? The investigation lasted 2 years. The DEA, FBI, and local police were involved. They traced Prince's prescriptions, interviewed doctors, examined pharmacy records. What they found was disturbing. Prince had been getting pills from multiple sources, some prescribed legitimately, others obtained through intermediaries. In April 2018, the investigation concluded. No criminal charges were filed. Prosecutors determined they couldn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt who had supplied Prince with the fatal pills. "We know Prince died from fentanyl-laced pills," prosecutors said, "but we can't definitively prove who gave them to him or if they knew they were fake." The case was closed. No justice, no accountability. Prince's family was devastated. "Someone is responsible," they said, and they got away with it. But the larger issue was clear. Counterfeit pills were flooding America. Fentanyl was everywhere, and it was killing people. Prince was just one of thousands. But his death brought attention to a crisis the country had been ignoring. After Prince's death, his estate had to deal with complicated issues. Prince had no will, no estate plan. He'd never married. He'd been married twice briefly, but divorced both times. He had no living children. His only son died at 1 week old in 1996. His estate, worth an estimated $300 million, went to his 6 half-siblings through probate court. The battle over his estate lasted years, finally settled in 2022. Prince's vault, a legendary collection of unreleased recordings, contained thousands of songs, enough material for dozens of albums. Since his death, some has been released. Posthumous albums, deluxe reissues, but most remains locked away. Prince was so prolific, said an engineer. He recorded constantly. What we've heard is just a fraction of what he created. The legacy, the genius who redefined music. More than 8 years have passed since Prince died in that elevator at Paisley Park, and his influence is everywhere. Prince sold over 150 million records during his lifetime. Since his death, his music has streamed billions of times. New generations discover his genius. Kids on TikTok are blown away by his guitar solos. Young artists study his production techniques. Prince was ahead of his time, said Questlove. He did things in the 80s that people are still trying to figure out. Prince's influence spans genres. R&B. Every R&B artist from D'Angelo to The Weeknd cites Prince. Rock. His guitar playing influenced everyone from John Mayer to Gary Clark Jr. Pop. His production style shaped modern pop music. Funk. He kept funk alive when nobody else was doing it. Fashion. He made it acceptable for male artists to be flamboyant, feminine, androgynous. Prince showed us we could be whoever we wanted, said Janelle Monáe. He didn't follow rules, he made his own. Prince was also a fierce advocate for artist rights. His battle with Warner Brothers changed the industry. Prince fought for creative control, said a music executive. He proved artists could own their work. Every independent artist today owes him something. Prince mentored countless artists, wrote songs for others, often under pseudonyms, discovered talent, gave people chances. Prince believed in lifting others up, said Sheila E. He wasn't selfish with his genius, but Prince's death also serves as a cautionary tale about pain, pride, and the opioid crisis. Prince was in pain, said a friend, but he wouldn't ask for help, wouldn't show weakness, and it killed him. Prince's story represents a larger crisis in America. Chronic pain affects millions. Opioid addiction kills tens of thousands annually. Counterfeit pills have flooded the market. Fentanyl is the leading cause of overdose deaths. Prince's death wasn't unique, said an addiction specialist. It happens every day. To regular people, they take what they think is a pain pill, it's laced with fentanyl, and they die. Since Prince's death, there's been more attention on the fentanyl crisis, more education, more naloxone distribution, but the problem persists. Counterfeit pills look exactly like real ones. People don't know what they're taking. If it killed Prince, someone with resources, with people around him, it can kill anyone, said a public health expert. Paisley Park is now a museum. Fans can tour the studios, see where Prince created, see the elevator where he died, though it's not part of the tour. Every year on April 21st, fans gather at Paisley Park, hold vigils, play his music, celebrate his life. Prince gave us so much, said a fan. His music helped me through hard times, saved my life, honestly. Prince's family established the Prince Estate to preserve his legacy. They've released some vault material, authorized documentaries, protected his image, but tensions remain over money, over control, over what Prince would have wanted. Prince was so private, said a family member. We're trying to honor him, but it's complicated. What's not complicated is his genius, his innovation, his impact. Prince Rogers Nelson was one of the greatest musicians who ever lived, a multi-instrumentalist, a composer, a producer, a performer, an icon. He revolutionized music, fought for artist rights, inspired generations, and he died alone, in pain, taking pills he thought would help. It's a tragedy that never should have happened. Epilogue. The Purple One. If Prince had lived, what would he have created? What boundaries would he have pushed? What artists would he have mentored? We'll never know. All we have is the music, the performances, the legend. On April 21st, 2016, Prince took pills he thought were helping his chronic pain, but they were counterfeit, laced with fentanyl, and within minutes, one of the greatest artists of all time was gone. Prince spent his life chasing perfection in his music, in his performances, in his art, but he couldn't outrun pain, couldn't admit weakness, couldn't ask for help, and that pride, that refusal to be vulnerable, killed him. Prince's death highlights an American crisis, the opioid epidemic, counterfeit pills, a healthcare system that fails people in pain. But it also reminds us of Prince's incredible legacy, the music that made us dance, cry, feel alive, the fearlessness that inspired us to be ourselves, the genius that elevated an entire art form. Prince Rogers Nelson was one of a kind, irreplaceable, eternal. His body may have given out, but his music never will. Every time someone plays his songs, every time a young artist picks up a guitar inspired by him, every time someone dances to his funky beats, Prince is still here, still creating joy, still changing lives. He was the purple one, the kid, the artist, the symbol, the genius, and he'll never be forgotten. Rest in power, Prince. Thank you for the music. Thank you for being you.